everyone, Tom Vogel, Wrestling's finest PC Pro Wrestling game. We are continuing on with our version 3 feature videos, and this is the third one in the series. This one here is a lot of it's just going to be telling you about some stuff because I can't actually show you everything that I'm going to be talking about here. One of the first things I want to talk about, and I touched on it during the last video, was some of the defaults in the game. And what I mean by defaults is, as a game designer, you have a vision and you design the game the way you want it to be played. And as a game designer, I believe you're allowed to hope and wish everybody would play it the way you designed it, but you also know that people are going to play the game however they want, once they purchase it. So what I tried to do with Gary's help in this one was to set it up where a lot of the default settings that you used to have to manually set are already set for you. And that way, as a designer, we got it set up to play, the way the game was designed. Now, you still have a lot of flexibility. A lot of them you can, actually change out of. But, and then the last video I talked about for title matches, if it's a face challenger, he gets to use tourney DQ rules automatically. It's just an automatic default setting. For heels, it will not kick on. But for the faces it will. So that's that was one of the settings. There's other settings, like if you do a vendetta match, the wrestler who has a vendetta, his default setting is that his reduced DQ chance is actually taken off because he's just a wild man that match. It's not so much about winning or losing, it's about destroying his opponent, who might have insulted his mother or something like that. So those are some of the the settings, default settings I'm talking about. The other one here I wanted to show you here is, if you look here down at the bottom, you get you'll see scientific, 2 out of 3s, no disclosure. The no disclosure, that's where the wrestler, during the match, you don't see the wrestler's stamina, pin rating. I think cuts might be in there, but I'm not positive. And I don't even know if it shows the strategy cards. I think it does. So basically, if you're playing it, it's kind of cool because you have to make decisions based on gut feeling and what you think, and not the hints that are given to you, such as the wrestler's stamina, what his pin rating is. You might say, oh, look at his stamina rating, I'm going to go for a specialty move now. But if you think about it, in a real wrestling match, you didn't know the guy was on a certain stamina level. You just had the gut feeling that it was time to go for your specialty move. So I would suggest, or might hint, you might want to try that once in a while. It's kind of cool. But here's the thing with the scientific. So say I wanted to do a scientific match. I click it under classic. If I want 2 out of 3, I can do that also. But let's say you're going to do a cage match. Notice here, you cannot select scientific and you cannot select 2 out of 3. Say you want to do vendetta, can't set them, won't let you. And that's on purpose, because how in a cage match would you have a scientific match? And I'm not saying there hasn't ever been 2 out of 3 fall matches in a cage, but they are so rare that we just decided to block them. Now, can I remember every setting on here? Probably not. Big man, I know you can do a scientific because you could have 2 face big guys, but I know you can't do 2 out of 3. If you go to like, I know all these in here, you can't do scientific or 2 out of 3. But if you wanted to do, let's say you want to do a TV studio, you can do scientific and you can do a 2 out of 3 fall match. So it just depends again what match you select, and if you get down here and it won't let you click them, there's a reason. It's because you can't. Just looking through here, long as we're here, I can show you this new match time. I already showed you that. It's no longer the pull down. It just shows you all your time options. And what I really like is Gary colored this box different, because I kept always clicking down here. I'd set 30, and then I'd come down here, and I go, oh, I got to go back up here. Well, now the color is completely, makes it real easy. And when you click OK, nice touch here, you'll see it's 60 minutes down here. Which also gives you a chance. Oh, I didn't mean to hit 60. Now you can go back up and change it to whatever you want. So that's one of the new features. I might have touched on that in the visual, but I wanted to re-emphasize that. Tourney DQ rules that I mentioned, they have changed a little bit, and the fact that now they're all minus 10, and it was a compromise. The minus 10 is good because it reduces a wrestler's. Let me show you right here. If you want, when we get to the next screen, Bob Armstrong has, let me look here real quick. His disqualified is 23-20. So now for this match will be 23-10, meaning if DQ comes up, he has to turn a 1 to 10 out of 40 instead of 1 to 20. The compromise is it used to reduce that 3 to a 1, meaning it was darn near impossible for a face to get DQ'd with that low of a rating. Now it's going to stay at 3. So the compromise is you get it up front, but if you pass that 1 to 10 test, then when you get to the chart, you still have a somewhat chance of him getting DQ'd. So just wanted to point that out so we can get rid of that, and I can cross that off my highlight list here. When we get to the other screen, I might show you a couple other default settings. But next thing I want to talk about here is managers, Gary Hart. If you look at this here, outside ring, this ratings, this is what occurs. And here's how a manager gets involved. Scenario 1, computers controlling the spoiler with Gary Hart. If spoiler has more than one outside help card, strategy card, the computer does a continuous check to see if the manager will get involved. And that's any time during the match other than pins or submissions. But what's factored in to see if it happens is if, based on the wrestler's rating or the manager's rating, it's from 1 to 5. 5 means he or she interferes a lot. 1 means very rarely. That determines if the manager will become involved. However, if the wrestler's down to one outside help strategy card, the manager will not get involved at that point. And I'm giving that secret away just because I want people to know that it's kind of like the timeout in basketball. You always want to save that one till the end. And for calling for outside help or whatever other situation you might need, you're going to save that outside help strategy card. But the main thing with the new manager stuff is if you look at their card, you're going to see it's different now in the explanation, like manager distracts opponent minus 20. In the previous version, it was a long description there. And now it's just that it just basically tells you what the manager did and the stamina off, because if Gary Hart was to turn a 31 or 32, then that means it will pull in a text file, and there's probably 10 to 15 different ways of saying manager distracts. The other thing here is you'll notice the DQ is taken away for foreign object, because this 24 DQ'd for interference, now the foreign object's been lumped in there. So there's probably 10, 12 different ways the manager can get DQ'd. This freed up this spot for me now. So then I just put in more intense cheap shot. So instead of being 15 off, it's 30 off. The other big change on all the managers is you'll see you got a DQ, one number there, one number for a count out, and here, opponent pins wrestler and manager accidentally hits him. Not all of them have that, but some do. So there's 1, 2, 3. So there's only 3 what I call match enders now on a manager's card. And I would guess Gary Hart probably had 5 or 6 before. So that's a huge reduction. And I think it will make the manager involvement much more realistic. When I say manager, I mean valet too, and we have different text files for both manager and valet because you need to separate male female. I think you'll like some of the valet ones. They got pretty creative. Marta, my wife, even helped me come up with. I was trying to think when a female valet uses a foreign object. I asked her, give me all the items a woman could use. And, we had the purse, we had the shoe, we had perfume. But then, like Marta said, maybe they take a necklace off and they choke the guy, or maybe they have one of those big, heavy bracelets they can hit the guy with. So she came up with about 2 or 3 that I actually got in on the text files. But I think you're going to see it much more come to life. The manager involvement will be very realistic. Now, what I did forget was, what are the other ways a manager comes into play if the computer's controlling him, the wrestler? If outside ring comes up, the computer will decide based on a percentage table we have, based on a few different, I think there's 2 or 3 different factors, including the manager's interference rating. Will the wrestler call the manager, or will they just go to the outside ring chart? Now, if it's a cage match and it goes to the outside ring chart, of course it will be the cage match, instead of the regular outside ring. Now, if you're controlling the wrestler, you can call for your manager to help anytime during the match other than a pin or submission with the outside help strategy card. When that card is played, you will get the pop-up saying, do you wish to use your manager's card? If you click yes, this is where your result will come from. If you click no, it will use the outside help anytime chart. Now, of course, during a pin attempt, you can also call for your manager to interfere, or you can call for regular outside help. The greater chance of having a DQ is if you call outside help. It just kind of depends what are you hoping the match maybe goes on? Then you might want to call your manager. But if you're okay with the DQ occurring and maybe that's what you want, then you would decline your manager and then just go with the outside help. I might do a video on that later because I think there's some confusion with that. So anyway, that's the new manager thing. I think you'll like it. I'm very happy with the text files. They are some of my favorite that I put in. Just going to shoot out a couple things. Doesn't really matter what screen we're on here, but one thing that was slightly changed is the match timing. That hadn't been changed in 38 years, but through the years, with the internet, and I bought so many wrestling books, where they list the results, on the internet. I was shocked how short matches really were, and when you think about it, a lot of times territories would start a card at 8:30 and people would be out by 10:15 to 10:30, so that's 2 hours of wrestling at most. But then when you back out, how long between matches, also your intermission, and also, do you have a wrestler that like stalls coming into the ring? In theory, you might only have an hour and 15, hour and 20 minutes of wrestling, and if you divide that by 6 matches, we're talking, maybe an average of 15 minutes at most. So you'll see a lot of matches in that like 10, 11 minute, and then, if you're lucky, maybe the main event will get you 18 to 20. And I'm not saying there aren't exceptions, because of course you're going to have, some 30 and 40 minute ones now and then, but overall match times were a lot less than originally created for the game. And that's not saying that things changed through the years. It's just, I can go back now and look at 1975 results, and I'm just like, whoa, that match went 12, the next one went 10, the third one went 14, and so forth, and it's like, wow, they're just not very long. So we slightly altered it, but it's only for, I think, It's only for the classic matches. There might be one other one in there, but I don't remember now. And it's just a slight change. The tag team and specialty were not changed. I don't have an issue with any of those. So that takes care of what I wanted to talk about on the new timing. Other thing that was added is you would call it a new feature. We have new wild events, and we have text files for them all now. So I was able to lump a lot of the categories together, which allowed me to add a few more that Gary was able to incorporate. And also now we have a tag team specific wild event. It's not one size fits all. It's singles match will use this wild event chart, tag team will use the others. And I don't know how often you'll see the new ones come up, but I did take some suggestions people had for different wild events where it didn't affect anything in the match. It was more things that would allow you to create angles or further things. And you'll see them. They'll occasionally come up, and I think you'll be surprised with them. I think even Gary got in the wording of a couple, and I just think some pretty cool things are in there. So I think that covers my wild events I wanted to talk about. They'll still come up with about the same frequency. We talked about the no DQ. The other one I wanted to mention was ECW hardcore match. That chart was not real good, meaning I thought the results were great. I honestly don't remember if we had text files with the last version or not. I just don't remember, but I know I changed them a little bit. But the huge difference is, again, my word match enders. The ECW hardcore chart had too many match enders, meaning double DQ, double count out. I guess DQ could occur on them, or a no contest. They were cut well in half. I know some people might think, well, you shouldn't have any. No, then if you're going to do that, just do a no DQ match. But these here will have a lot fewer. You'll still see them, but not near to the rate you used to see them. And I did a lot of play testing with those. I think Bob Overton might have helped me with those too, where we just didn't get near as many match enders. So that was a change to the chart. And then the other one, I think this might be the last one I leave everyone with, is the pre and post match attack charts. I actually redid the charts completely to make the results a little bit more, I don't know if the word's accurate, but you won't see as many pinfalls to start. I did have to put the pin, just to warn people, if you do a pre-match attack, there's always a chance if you're doing it against a prelim guy, there's a slim chance, but there is a chance the prelim guy could score a pin. So I think we had a discussion, does a prelim guy ever win? No, but he might if you do a pre-match, because there is a chance that it could backfire. But the beauty of it is Gary suggested, I didn't like doing it at first because it was pain, but it was a really good idea. There's a separate pre-match and post-match attack, if you're a heel and then if you're a face. So there's basically 4 charts, and each one has some really good. I love my text files for my pre and post match. I was actually able to steal a couple from, when I say steal, I added a couple that I saw watching some old Mid-South DVDs. I go, that would be the most awesome pre and post match attacks. So I was able to fit them in the text files. So every result now on a pre-match or post-match attack will have text files. One thing to keep in mind, and I know this gets confusing, I'm going to try to explain it here. If you use the computer to control the pre-match setting, and let's say you do, it doesn't matter if it's one or both, if I do never, let's say I keep it at normal, a wrestler has to pass, I believe it's at least one test, maybe 2, to get to the chart. I think it's now just 1, but it might be a little bit harder. So just because if you're controlling, say, Roddy Piper and you want him to attack, say you're the spoiler and you want to attack Barb Armstrong, doesn't mean just because you want to do it, you're going to get to do it. There's a formula that's used based on both wrestlers. And then at that point, it will determine if you can even go forward with your pre-match. I think there are 2 checks. You have to pass it, and then after that, you have to pass the second one. Otherwise, it's the wrestler wanted to do the attack. They were just unable to. So I know it's a little bit tricky, but just trust me that just because you want to do the attack, you might say, I tried to do one, it wouldn't let me. It's because the wrestler, the formula didn't allow you to pass the test. Same with the post-match. Just because you want to do it doesn't mean you can. For purpose, as long as I'm here, when I do title matches, let's say I make this title match, I click never because A, I don't want it to backfire on the face, but I also don't want the heel to get pinned. So I just don't like having a heel champion do a pre-match attack. And I believe the computer percentages account for that. So if you're a heel champion, your chances of doing a pre-match attack are much, much less than if you're not a champion. But like I said, I click never. Final thing here. And when the next video, I think I'm going to have it come up so you can see it. But I just want you to show you something. Let's say you're doing a title match. You don't have a champion. This is kind of a cool feature Gary and I figured out how to do. Let's say you have a champion get stripped of his title. And you're going to do a tournament. Well, if you select title match, it will put in no champion. I'm going to look this up for the next video, but certain settings are used, and that special text that comes up at the end of that championship box at the end of the match, it actually acknowledges that the title was upheld. So it's specific that if you get a new champion, or if the belt's still held up, you're going to get the appropriate box. And I think I'll talk about that on the next one. So kept this to 22, which is good for me. Looking at my list here, we still have at least one more of these videos to do. But I think we covered a lot on this one. Again, I'm going to give you my email here. It's all lowercase, one word. Tommy, Tommy, V is my initial for it was Victor, V is in Victor, 33 at att.net. That's Tommy V 33 at att.net. You can also go to our Delphi forum, which has just been exploding with action. It's awesome. Just type in Delphi, DELPHI forum, and then type Wrestling's Finest, and it should take you right there. We got some great stuff going on. Super guys there. I think it's one of the best forums going around. No political stuff, but if you get a chance, check it out, because it's mainly about the wrestling game, and then we also have some other great wrestling discussions. But appreciate all the support for version 3, and thank you for joining me on this video, and I'll be back soon with another one. But until then, Tom Vogel, Wrestling's Finest, PC Pro Wrestling Game. So long, everyone.